What is good, everybody? Welcome to the second ever Gold Standard NFL show. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. He's Levin Black. We are breaking down everything that happened in Week 10. It was a weird one, Levin.
There were some really, really close games. I think there were 4 or 5 games that came down to the very last play.
And there were a few themes I feel like that popped up. And one of the themes that popped up, and it's where we're going to start on today's show, are teams that made a ton of mistakes, but still somehow found a way to win the game. And if that is the theme that we are going with, we have to start on Sunday Night Football. Lions, Texans. I mean, in the first half, Houston could do no wrong. They were moving up and down the field, and they look like that they're going to have a very nice win over what I said last week, was the best team in the NFL. And instead, in the second half of this game, I mean, nothing went right for Houston. Jared Goff threw 5 interceptions, and the Texans could not score a single point after halftime.
They should have had this put away at halftime because 4 of those interceptions came in the first half. They should have been up 20 points at halftime, but they too kept messing up. They too kept having these drives that would stall just before getting to field goal range, or they turned the ball over twice themselves. They kept shooting themselves in the foot to where they didn't put the Lions away. And then in the second half, the Lions did just enough to win this game. Like the Texans having 23 points when you have 5 interceptions is inexcusable.
It's brutal, and it's a horrible just gacking up of the lead by DeMeco Ryans. Here's the Texans' second half possessions: interception, punt, interception, punt, 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 missed field goal. And I want to focus on the missed field goal, 11. What the hell was DeMeco Ryans doing at the end of this game? I don't understand it. The world is crashing down around you if you're Houston. You get the ball with 5 minutes to go in the game, and you start your drive, and you get all the way down to the Detroit 40-yard line, just under 2 minutes to go in the game. It is 4th and 4 at the 40-yard line, and your options are attempt a 58-yard field goal, punt, go for it, and DeMeco Ryans decides to try a 58-yard field goal, and I don't understand this. I don't understand the thinking. Explain it to me. Why are you going to attempt a very difficult field goal when even if you make the kick to go up 3, the other team still has 2 minutes to score? And if you miss the kick, they get even better field position than if you just go for it on 4th down and don't get it. To me, it was screaming for DeMeco Ryans to go and try and pick up the first down. And instead, he took the coward's way out, and they missed the field goal and ultimately lost the game.
Yeah, missed field goals is probably the story of the week. Yeah, we'll get to that more later. There's a lot of games that had missed field goal storylines. But to me, yeah, I would go. I don't blame him for going for the field goal. It's one of those that's in the middle to me. Going for it on 4th and 4 is what I would do as a coach, but your kicker makes 58-yard. I mean, the NFL, 58-yard field goals is not that uncommon anymore. Every week, it seems like somebody makes one of those. It's basically a 50-50 shot. But I'm looking at it as, okay, I would rather have a 50-50 shot of getting the first down than a 50-50 shot of getting the field goal just to tie the game. So that's why I would go for it. But it's a gray enough area to where I don't think it's a terrible coaching decision.
I think it's a terrible coaching decision because you're really telling me that your chances of making a 58-yard field goal are better than your chances of getting 4 yards? Like, you're supposed to have CJ Stroud. He's supposed to be the man, right? Your franchise guy. Why are you putting the game in the hands of your kicker as opposed to the hands of the guy that you think is your franchise superstar quarterback? Right?
You got to factor in what that offense had looked like. Like you said, they scored 0 points in the second half.
Yeah, I know.
Joe Mixon had one of the worst rushing games there's ever been, maybe, unless you go back to like the 1920s when all they did was run for 1 yard. He had, I think, like 25 carries for 48 yards or something like it.
46. Don't.
Yeah, like terrible game. So the run is completely out of the question. So now you're looking at passing, but they hadn't scored. To me, I still go for it, like I said, and you have an athletic quarterback. So I'm giving him a rollout where it's a run pass option, where it's a run option for the quarterback. If they don't come with you, run for the first down. If they come with you, we're going to stack that side of the field, and you're going to have 3 options, one short, one middle, and one deep, and hope one of them works. And if not, then we're going to throw the jump ball, and just pray it works on 4th down. To me, that's the better option. I don't think it's one that I get heavily critical either for taking the field goal.
I thought it was just a bad. I thought it was, D'Amico Ryans catching that conservative virus that Kyle Shanahan seems to have. Everybody that comes from that Shanahan tree seems to be really, really conservative. I saw this tweet from Rich Rebar. After being outscored 19-0 in the second half last night, the Texans have now been outscored 141-82 in the second half this season. The only team with a worse point differential in the second half is the Titans at -76. So teams maybe have trouble stopping Houston early, but they adjust, and the Texans are not able to counterattack.
The Texans have been kind of the anti what D'Amico Ryans was as a defensive coordinator. D'Amico was come out in the first drive as complete garbage, and then he makes adjustments. And by the end of the game, the defense was dominating when he was a defensive coordinator. This team, the defense, as you just showed, is getting torched in the second half, but the offense has been terrible for a while now, like a good month. And that's why they've fallen to 6-4. Bobby Slowick started out this season on fire.
Yep.
And people were even saying, wow, this guy might only be one and done as an offensive coordinator because he's going to be a hot coaching hire. No, he has not made any adjustments. Defenses have adjusted to him, and there's no excuse. Like, you look at the talent on that Houston team offensively, they should be a top 5 offense, and they're not. So that, to me, shows that Bobby Slowick might have had some good ideas, but he needs an offseason to see if he's even going to be able to stick as an offensive coordinator in this league.
Ian Harditz tweets, the Texans pressure rate allowed, according to PFF, weeks 1 to 6, 32.3%. That was 13th in the league. Weeks 7 to 10, 48.7. That is dead last. If you cannot protect CJ Stroud, he's going to struggle. His mobility is not great. He doesn't really move around the pocket that well, in my opinion. He can't really get out there and move. That was something that was talked about even when he was coming into the league. You got to protect him better, and they've been literally dead last the last 3 weeks, and that is why Houston loses a game like they lost on Sunday night. And credit to the Lions. That's a gritty win. They did not give up. They did not stop fighting. That's a nice win for them. They're now 8-1, and they continue to look like the class of the NFC.
This is a trend in the NFL. The Kyle Shanahan offense, if you want to give him the credit for it, is everywhere in the NFL. Nearly a third of the NFL is running that offense. And the trend we have seen this year is get pressure. If you blitz, that offense can fall apart. If it is the blitzes are getting home, then or going unblocked. If you show and disguise your blitzes, all those offenses are struggling with it this year. That offense is allowing a ton of pressures, and they're all doing worse than they have in the past.
And Slowick's going to have to fix it. Stroud's going to have to fix it. I think Houston is probably still going to make the playoffs. They still are 6-4, so it's not like the world is crashing down around them.
In the AFC, you don't have much margin for error.
But their division, they do, because the Colts are 4-6, and they're the closest team to the Texans. Yeah. So, and Houston's 3-0 in the division and 5-1 in the AFC. So they're looking strong for a playoff spot, and obviously so are the Lions for many, many reasons. Next up on the teams that made a ton of mistakes but still somehow found a way to win, Sam Darnold has officially turned back into a pumpkin, but it didn't matter because somehow the Vikings still got a 12-7 win over the toothless Jaguars.
You ruined my joke. I was going to say Halloween is come and gone, but Sam Darnold, showing up fashionably late, has turned into a pumpkin. But the sound you hear is him crashing back down to earth. He has 5 interceptions in the last 2 games. He's on pace for 19 interceptions. Now, he's made some really nice plays. So it's not as bad as we've seen him in the past because he is making big plays. He's just making a ton of mistakes too. And they've been good enough to win those games because the defense is really good. Mm-hmm. But that's why nobody's writing about them much. They're kind of getting ignored to a certain degree because everybody knows like they're going to get into the playoffs and Sam Darnold's going to throw interceptions and they can't win those games in the playoffs.
To me, they have first round playoff loss written all
home
over.
Playoff loss. Yeah.
I mean, first of all, the last 2 weeks with Sam Darnold, you mentioned the 5 picks. It's against the Jaguars and the Colts. We're not talking about juggernaut defenses here with Sam Darnold. That's the thing that's got to scare you if you're a Vikings fan. I mean, fortunately, you had the perfect opponent to do this against because the Jaguars are an absolute joke. Jacksonville had 143 total yards on the day. That's the fewest in Doug Peterson's entire tenure in Jacksonville. Jacksonville ran 43 plays. The Vikings ran 82. So they just dominated the game completely. The Jags are just a mess. And it was no Trevor Lawrence in this game. It was Mac Jones. Guess what? He still stinks. Just 2 bad teams, but the Vikings are a better coached football team than the Jaguars, period. Defensively, offensively, they're a much better coached team, and that's why they are able to win this clunker.
I did see an interesting tweet that Justin Jefferson is starting to get defended like Davante Adams was when he was with the Green Bay Packers. And what happened with the Green Bay Packers is when there was 2 high safeties, Davante Adams was not a good option. Aaron Rodgers would struggle to get him the ball, and that's when he would have his turnovers, when he was trying to get Davante Adams the ball when there was 2 high safeties and they were taking away what Davante Adams does well. All 3 interceptions yesterday came against 2 high safety when he was trying to target Justin Jefferson. What Aaron Rodgers did as an adjustment was when he saw 2 high safety, he went to everybody but Adams. He changed routes. He didn't look Adams' way. Adams would not be high in the progressions. He would hit the underneaths to make them drop those safeties down. Then he would start going to Adams again. So it seems like Minnesota is going to have to make an adjustment because the teams have figured out we're going to run 2 high safety and make Sam Darnold beat us with the underneath. And then we'll see what happens with Jefferson. And so far, that has not been an adjustment the Vikings have made.
And like I said, I think I have a ton of respect for their coaches, so I think they'll make that adjustment. But they certainly didn't yesterday. Oh, by the way, Darnold actually threw a 4th pick that got negated by a penalty. So it's just a festival with Sam Darnold. But they get the win, and it ends up being big too because they're trying to keep pace with Detroit in the NFC North. And you know, Vikings fans had to be furious watching that field goal for Detroit. I mean, Chris Collinsworth had a great line on the broadcast. He said, if they put an extra layer of paint on the goalpost, that kick probably doesn't go in. That's how close the Lions were to losing. But they get the win, and they have 8 wins now, and Minnesota has 7 wins, and that division is going to go down to the wire.
Yeah, very well could. I mean, the Lions aren't perfect, and the Vikings are far from perfect. So this is an interesting division because you could see like Green Bay knock both of them off. You could see Green Bay get wins over both teams and get back in the race themselves. This could become a 3-team race. I don't personally believe much in Green Bay. Jordan Love has not made any kind of improvements from last year, but that is something that's possible. You could see the Vikings stop getting lucky to a degree and drop, 3 out of 4 games. But the Lions defense is also not as good as it seems. They're top 10 in terms of points allowed, but in terms of yards per play, they're 22nd. In terms of first downs allowed, they're 24th. The thing that's been saving them is that they're 3rd in turnover percentage. They're making the other teams turn the ball over, but they allow the other team to move. So if a team comes in disciplined and doesn't turn the ball over, they're going to give up points.
And it's hard to maintain that as a defense. When the main way that you stop people is turnovers, it's very, very hard to depend on that. That can be a very streaky thing. So we'll see if it holds up. Speaking of teams, again, making mistakes and getting away with it, the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, this is unbelievable. All I could think of is that gif of Jesse Pinkman going, he can't keep getting away with it. I mean, the Broncos are all set to steal one at Arrowhead. They're driving down the field at the end of the game, and I'm sitting there like, I can't believe this is happening. Bo Nix is carving up the Chiefs defense in a must-win situation. They get all the way down to the Chiefs' 17-yard line. This is a chip shot. This is less than an extra point. And Denver lines up for the kick. And that dude on the left side of the line for the Broncos, bless his heart, he got absolutely flattened. The Chiefs block the kick on the last play of the game. They remain undefeated. They get the 16-14 win. I saw an awesome breakdown by Dan Orlovsky this morning. This was not a fluke thing. The Chiefs attacked that specific guy multiple times in the game, and they put him on his back multiple times in the game, and they did it in a crucial spot at the end.
Yeah, best coach team in the NFL. There's no question about it. They are extremely well coached. It is ridiculous that Mahomes can be playing as bad as he is, and they're undefeated. They have a quarterback. Yes, it is Mahomes, but Mahomes is, if you look at like statistics, he might be like 20th best in the league this year, and yet they're undefeated. You know, I have one note written down for this game, and it is, why is God a Chiefs fan?
It's amazing to me. I mean, it's the mark of a good team, right? No matter what kind of game it is, they find a way to win. Mahomes, 28-42 for 266, had 1 touchdown, no picks, got sacked 4 times in the game. Didn't really run much, only 3 carries for 19 yards. I mean, I was all set to come on and say, maybe there's hope, like for the second straight week in a critical spot, Steve Spagnuolo's defense got taken to the woodshed. Last week, Baker went right down the field against them and stuck it in the end zone. And this week, Bo Nix goes down on a must-have, gotta-have-it drive, and they're all set to give it up. But nope, credit to Dave Tope, the special teams coordinator in Kansas City. They just keep finding a way. And I feel like with the Lions and the Chiefs, like they just have this belief that things are going to work their way in big games, at the end of games, close games, whatever the case may be, like they're going to find a way to pull it out.
Yeah, there's one hope for the Chiefs if you're anti-Chiefs, and that hope resides in Baltimore. That's the one team that I can see knocking them off in the playoffs. That's the one team that I think has enough talent and is ready, developed enough. They're not sitting here inexperienced in the playoffs. Baltimore can beat them. That is the hope.
Maybe. We'll see. I mean, the 33rd team had a rundown of all the like crazy things that have happened to the Chiefs. It was like, well, they could have a losing record. It's like, yeah, they could, but they don't. And that's the point. They make the plays, the critical plays at the end of the game, whether it's a stop defensively or a blocked field goal or something like that. Even against the Ravens in week 1, right? I mean, Baltimore maybe ties that game up, but Isaiah Likely's foot, they push him out of bounds. It's just a toenail over the line, but it's out of bounds. Like when those things continue to happen again and again and again, it stops being luck and it starts being like them making the plays. And that's where the Chiefs are right now. And they are undefeated. And right now, as good as they're, the Bills look and the Ravens look and all that, the Chiefs have to be the favorite to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they got to be the favorite. Can you imagine if this is the team that ends up getting the undefeated season? This team, like every game they should have lost, and then they end up having the undefeated season. That would be like extra gut punch for that 72 Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, look, that would just be the cherry on top of the Chiefs Dynasty Sunday. Three-peat at a Super Bowl, which no one's ever done, and then they would do it in an undefeated season. Like, my God. Can somebody else win? Please, just for my own sanity.
Mahomes would get like 2 extra commercials if that happens.
All right, let's keep it moving here. Let's get to our game. We cover the 49ers every day for the Gold Standard 49ers Podcast Network. Teams that made mistakes and somehow found a way to win. The San Francisco 49ers, who missed not 1, not 2, but 3 field goals in the game, Levin, squeak it out when Jake Moody just sneaks the ball past the right upright on the final play of the game.
Yeah, the Moody Shank redemption is what I called it. He has a game winner, so I guess that keeps his job. If he had missed that, I think he'd be a free agent right now.
Yep, he would be unemployed.
Yeah, he made it, so he keeps his job for 1 more week. I am teetering on, if he has another week like this week, I don't care if he makes the game winner. I'm moving on. If he's 1 of 4 on field goals next week, I would move on from Jake Moody. Now, in terms of the 49ers, it's the same old, same old. They're playing down to opponents. Mm-hmm. Their offense dominates the game until they get to the opponent's 30-yard line, and then they completely fall apart. This is yet another game where they couldn't get it done in the red zone. They scored. They did get a touchdown in the red zone, but they should have had more. They should have had 3 touchdowns in the red zone. And this should not have been a close game. But instead, they let their opponent hang around. And then in the second half, actually got down and had to come back.
if Jake Moody just makes the field goals, the Niners put up 32 points, even without scoring in the red zone, which just goes to show how good this offense is at pushing the ball down the field. Between the 20s, they're excellent. Once they get to the 20, unfortunately, they are not. Corey Soto, thanks for the super chat, says, I'm not sure we can call Nick Bosa elite anymore, at least not among the top. It's not double teams. He's doubled less than the top defensive ends and also wins less. Levin, that play on fourth down, which if you didn't watch the game and you didn't see it, it's 4th and 7. And the Buccaneers need 7. They need a conversion to keep the game alive because they're losing. And Nick Bosa grabs Baker Mayfield's arm, and he's holding onto Baker Mayfield's arm as Baker is rolling away from him. And he holds on to Baker's arm for at least 5 yards. And Baker just keeps rolling out and throws the ball down the field and gets a first down. I was stunned. I have never seen that before in my life. I was screaming at the television.
To focus on what he's saying here, yeah, Nick Bosa is not elite. He is not. I would not put him in the top 5 of pass rushers right now. He's close. He's still really, really good, but I would not put him top 5 pass rusher in the NFL right now. That's assuming Micah Parsons is healthy and like everybody's healthy that's currently hurt. I mean, you have Hutchinson, you have TJ Watt, you got Garrett, you got Micah Parsons, and I'm forgetting one that's currently leading the NFL in sacks. I can't think of his name right now, but I would not put Nick Bosa in there. He's not truly elite. He has not been the same last year or this year. He still has flashes, but it's like he's lost half a step, and that half step was important to him because he was already not there when it came to elite speed. In terms of this, he said that he just held on because he didn't want to get a horse collar. It's like, okay, dive at his legs. What does a quarterback need to be able to throw the ball? Their legs. Legs, a lot of quarterbacks will tell you legs are more important than the arm because if you can't get your legs into the throw, you can't get it to go anywhere. So if you just dove and swiped at his legs, he can't complete the pass.
And what I was saying last night on our instant reaction show is just go like a toddler that doesn't want to get in the car. Just go dead weight. Make him drag your body. Make Baker have to drag you to roll out and get away. Like, you don't hold onto his arm and keep running. You're letting him continue the play. You're making it easier for him to continue to make the play. And by the way, credit to Baker Mayfield. Phenomenal play to keep that alive and complete the pass too. Just unbelievable. But yeah, that was very frustrating. The 49ers, I saw this tweet from Tim Kawakami and Josh Dubois. It was actually like a little back-to-back tweet going back to the offense. Tim says the Niners outgained the 49ers opponents by 979 yards so far this season. Almost 1,000 yards they've outgained their opponents, and they're 5-4. Josh Dubois says the 108.8 advantage in yards per game would be the 3rd highest in the NFL since 2010. The Bills were plus 109.2 in 2021, and the Chargers were plus 124 in 2010 and missed the playoffs. So that's a scary thing. Like, we've seen teams be able to do this before and not make the playoffs. So the Niners got to get their act together in the red zone.
They are a statistically dominant offense in everything but finishing drives. And that is the most important thing.
Right. The points. which puts even more importance on Jake Moody, right? If they're not going to be able to finish drives, you need a stone cold lock of a kicker. Because otherwise you're getting nothing. And you had 3 drives that essentially were turnovers on downs. Really is what they ended up being. And credit to the 49ers defense, by the way, because 3 drives, Tampa started with great field position, and the Niners defense did their job and only gave up 20 points, 7 of which were gift wrap thanks to a stupid fumble and a punt return.
Yeah, this is a game that should not have been close. This is a game that up until that final drive for the Buccaneers, they had less than 100 yards passing, despite trying to pass a lot. The defense played extremely well. The defense kept this game winnable. If it wasn't for the defense having a really good game, the 49ers would have lost this game easily. But the defense has been, I don't want to say carrying the 49ers because they've been giving up a lot of points in the fourth quarter, and that's hard to overcome. But if it wasn't for the defense's good starts in the first half, this team would be down 14, 17, 20 points at halftime consistently, and you're not going to come back from that. The reason why this is still a season that there's some hope that they can figure things out is because of the defense.
Knees points out with Nick Bosa, by the way, he seemed in pain coming off that injury. I do think he was playing hurt, but as I always say, if you're well enough to be out on the field, you're well enough to be judged. Like, he wasn't very good. Was he playing hurt? Yeah. But if you're out there, you've got to be expected to reach a certain level of performance, and it wasn't good enough.
He was facing, and let's put this in perspective, he was facing an offensive tackle that was not good enough to stay on the 49ers roster.
Justin School, our old buddy.
Yeah. And the 49ers do not have a great offensive tackle past Trent Williams. So if you're not good enough to stick on the 49ers roster as a tackle, yet you matched up with Nick Bosa and held your own, Nick Bosa had a really bad game.
Yeah, he missed a tackle on a run that went for a touchdown because he thought that Baker might keep the ball, and he gave one of those submission cobras where you're on the ground, you're going, oh my God. It was not a good game for Nick Bosa. But again, Niners do get the win 23-20. So those were the teams I thought that won games really that they shouldn't have won despite the mistakes. Now let's get to just some good games of the week. And one of the best was Pittsburgh-Washington. I am stunned by what I have seen from the Pittsburgh Steelers. They get the 28-27 win. Stop me if you've heard this before, 49er fans. Russell Wilson pulled a rabbit out of his hat with a moon ball at the end of the game to get his team the win.
Yeah, they are the least talked about division leader because everybody assumes it's Baltimore, but Baltimore has 3 losses. The leader of that division is the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they have been really good. The defense might be the best in the league. If you told me you pick the defense you want, that's the defense I would pick. They might not statistically dominate quite as much as others, but they have such good pass rushers, and TJ Watt is so good at coming up with the play when you need it.
Yes. Oh my God.
That is the defense I would pick if I was given my choice of defenses in the NFL to lead my team. And now that they have Russell Wilson, the offense is still not a great offense, but they're good enough. They're making enough plays. Whereas in the last few years, it's been the offense is completely devoid of everything because the quarterback is so bad and the offensive line has been bad in years past. The offensive line is now average, and they got a quarterback that can at least make the plays like you saw that last touchdown. That was a classic Russell Wilson throw, a moon ball that dropped right in the bucket for a touchdown to win the game, take the lead by 1, right towards the end of the game. This team is good enough, I would say, to be a contender. That's where I put them. They are a contender. I don't put them as a favorite. I probably don't put them. I would go back and forth on whether or not they're the 3rd team in the AFC because I think it's Kansas City, it's Baltimore, and then you can go either Buffalo or the Steelers.
When Russ was in his heyday with the Seahawks, what did they have? They had a great running game. They had a phenomenal defense with the Legion of Boom. And Russ would not have to throw it 50 times a game. He would make plays and step up and do things when he needed to in crunch time. What do the Steelers have? A great defense. What do they have? A running game. They ran it 43 times yesterday for 140 yards. They don't even care if it works or not, but they stick with it. Russell Wilson was 14 of 28. He only threw for 195 yards, but he had 3 touchdowns and 1 pick. Like, this is Russ doing the things that make Russ the best. And he's not interested anymore in putting up big numbers or, let Russ cook or any of that. He was interested in just hanging on to his starting job. And now he's back to that old kind of playing the game the way he's best suited to play it. And it's working for the Steelers.
Yeah. I'm not going to pick the Steelers to make the Super Bowl, but I would not be shocked if they do. They are a team that knows what they are. They're not trying to be something that they're not. They want to slow the game down, like you said. They want to make the game shorter by running the ball, and they want to let their defense make big plays. The offense makes some big plays. George Pickens is a phenomenal deep threat. But really what they're looking at is let's let the defense get the sacks, the turnovers, and the offense just not screwed up.
And Russ can make a big play when he has to. Russ has always been very good at knowing when the momentum is tilting in his favor and going for the win and just going to take your heart away. He's always had a good sense of that. The Steelers defense, just to go back to that for a second, 3 sacks in the game, 8 tackles for loss, 5 passes defended, and 6 quarterback hits. Man, they just get after you. The Commanders were rolling everybody on offense, and Pittsburgh came in and did what they needed to. That is a very nice win for the Steelers. 7-2 on the season, 4-1 on the road for Pittsburgh. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's Ravens Steelers in week 11 next week.
Yeah, I think it is. It's I live in Pittsburgh. It's going to be a fun week.
Yes, Ravens in Pittsburgh. That's a 1:00 game. Man, could we get that game in prime time? Forget Bengals Chargers on Sunday Night Football. They should have swapped that game out. Give me Ravens Steelers, man. I'm old enough to remember the Troy Polamalu, just Steelers Ravens with Ray Lewis, where they would beat the hell out of each other. I want to see that rivalry start again.
Yeah, I'll definitely be inside watching, and I'll probably keep the 4-year-old inside as well, because during Steeler games that are animated, big games, if you're outside, you might hear some curse words from neighboring houses.
Yes, I would imagine that could be a thing. Real OBJ CDT says, talking about the 49ers, thank you for the donation. Fault pie chart. Moody, 20%. Brian Schneider, 30%. Kyle, 50%. Kyle doesn't take special teams seriously. Reed and Belichick do, and they have multiple rings to show for it. This whole Kyle Shanahan's whole strategy of just don't lose us the game, yeah, it ain't working, Kyle. You got to get more serious than that. And if you haven't learned that lesson by now, shame on you.
Yeah, and Kyle also gets a little more blame here because the red zone issues have to start falling on him. It's consistent. It's not a personnel issue. It is his play designs. Even the touchdown that they scored, what was it? An ad lib. What did we see Brock doing a lot in this game? Ad libbing. That entire touchdown drive to George Kittle, it was play after play where Brock Purdy, after the play broke down, made something happen. That's because the play designs and the play calling is not good enough. If your quarterback is getting the touchdowns when he's ad-libbing all the time, that means the play calls are not up to snuff.
It was a frustrating day for the 49ers yesterday. No doubt about it. All right, let's kick into high gear here. Let's go to a game that was not close in any way, shape, form, or fashion. The Cardinals, 31-6 over the Jets. The Jets are just a pathetic operation. Their defense just cashes out in games. The offense is completely inept. The coaching looks terrible. They look worse since they got rid of Robert Saleh. And the Cardinals just absolutely steamrolled them.
Yeah, this is an offseason that if I'm the Jets, I say, here's the deal, Aaron. You can go retire, and we're not going to try to argue out of it. Or you can be here all offseason. You either show up to the OTAs or we will send you packing. And we will hire the offensive coordinator because Hackett can't hack it. He sucks.
I mean, Sean Payton was cackling at him. Remember when he got to Denver? He was just laughing at how bad it was. Turns out, yeah, guess what? It's not 15 years ago anymore. The league has moved on. And it's just bad for the Jets. They're done. I don't even want to waste time talking about them. You sold your soul to Aaron Rodgers, and it has failed miserably. And now you get what you get. The Cardinals, the 49ers loss to the Cardinals is all of a sudden looking a hell of a lot better. I mean, Kyler Murray right now is rolling. He looks all the way back from the ACL injury. 266 yards yesterday, 1 touchdown. He also had 3 carries for 21 yards and 2 scores on the ground. He did whatever the hell he wanted to do against the Jets defense, who was number 2 against the pass coming into the game. Cardinals look for real.
Yeah, and James Conner also had a huge game. He, if I'm not mistaken, led them in receiving. I think he had 80 receiving yards. That team, the offense hasn't fully taken off yet. Like, you're seeing Marvin Harrison Jr., he's making a play, scoring like a touchdown here and there, but he hasn't been dominating. They have not taken off. Their wide receiver core has not taken off. I said last week, and he's upped it a little bit with his performance this week, the 266 yards, but Kyler Murray was on pace to play every game and have less than 3,200 passing yards.
Wow. It's really
so
low.
Yeah, like if this offense can get going a little bit better, yeah, they're a serious contender there.
Yeah, Marvin Harrison, 5 for 54 and a touchdown, which is perfectly fine, but like he was expected to be, the stud of studs, and it started a little slow for him. We'll see if it turns on later in the year. Justin says, did anyone on the planet think the Jets would look better after a midseason Saleh firing? Someone paint that picture. Yee, not good. If you, let's just say this, Kyle Shanahan wanted to hire Jeff Ulbrich to be the defensive coordinator. If he really wants to, he'll get that chance after the year because there ain't no way Jeff Ulbrich's going to be the head coach of the Jets next year.
Let me just throw this out there because there's going to be a free agent coach who will probably have to be an offensive coordinator if he wants any chance of coaching the NFL next year. It has a lot of history with Aaron Rodgers. Could we see the potato go to New York?
Oh, man. Mike McCarthy? I don't know.
As the offensive coordinator, though.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a good question. Real OBJ CDT says, question, Purdy or Stroud? You have to pick today. This is a super chat. Thank you very much. Today?
They're kind of in the same boat, aren't they?
Yeah.
They've shown lots of promise, but they've also shown some weaknesses that they haven't been able to correct yet.
I think that Stroud probably has more arm talent, but Purdy's better on the move. He's better mobility. I think I go with Brock.
I think I would take the potential. Because the thing I look at it as is Purdy's had Shanahan. He's had this core that's really good around him. Not that Houston's isn't good, but if you put Stroud with this 49ers team, does he not up his level just a little bit? And if they're even, wouldn't that put Stroud ahead then? So to me, I would take the potential with Stroud, and he's also getting to have the improvement going to the 49ers, which I know that question isn't 49ers specific because, you know, it wasn't, do you pick Purdy or Stroud for the 49ers? It was just which quarterback is better. I think they're very similarly talented. They're good quarterbacks who haven't quite hit the elite level because of the weaknesses that they can't correct.
You mentioned Mike McCarthy, so let's get to that. The Eagles just molly-whipped the Cowboys 34-6. I mean, they did anything they wanted to in this game. They ran the ball. They threw the ball. The Cowboys offense was utterly incompetent. Cooper Rush was 13 of 23 for 45 yards in the game. He had a QBR of 16.4. It's a disaster. The Dallas Cowboys are on fire right now. Once again, their stadium blinded a player in the end zone in CeeDee Lamb who couldn't make a touchdown catch when that game was, you know, very, very early in that game. I mean, it's a disaster right now in Dallas.
I want to see somebody like CeeDee Lamb who just got paid and has enough pull to just call it out. I wish he would have gone off in the press conference after the game and said, it is inexcusable that our owner prioritizes the beauty of his stadium over the ability for us to play at our best. The priority should be blocking out the sun so that your players can play to their talent level rather than, well, it looks nice when the sun comes in. Did you see the Jerry Jones comments after the game?
Yeah, actually, for anyone that didn't see it, let me see if I can pull it up here. Give me 1 second. Sorry, I thought I had it ready to go. Okay, here we go. Here's exclusive audio of Jerry Jones after the game.
Shut up about the sun. Shut up about the sun.
Jerry Jones.
Yeah. I mean, it's essentially what he said. We know where the sun is going to be at. Actually, we are able to predict where the sun's at a year ahead of time. Oh, actually, Jerry Jones, you can predict where the sun is at in infinity. You can predict where the sun is going to be at 1,000 years from now if you want to get down to it. The fact that you said that means, guess what? Yeah, we know that it was going to be a problem, and we said we don't care. That's what you're admitting by saying that.
And he won't even like put up curtains or like mitigate it in any way. He won't change it at all. Like, it just goes to show football is not the first priority with the Dallas Cowboys, and it hasn't been since Jimmy Johnson was the head coach there. And until Jerry Jones is no longer in charge there, it will never be the priority. He does not care.
And that team is completely tuned out. I don't know if you got to see the end of the game once Trey Lance got in. His interception was a go route to the wide receiver where the wide receiver literally never turned and looked for the ball. Didn't like, oh, I couldn't track it, couldn't find it. The wide receiver just kept running, and then he realized the safety's jumping. He must be trying to catch the ball, and without even turning to see where the ball is at, he just reached up and tried to play DB versus the safety and couldn't stop it. Like, how do you run a go route? Beats your man, by the way. He beat the one-on-one, but then never turns to see if the ball's coming his way. That team is completely checked out.
Leaving says, Jed built a Sun Stadium. Come on. So Jed York deserves criticism because he put the 49ers sideline in the sun and you melt out there. So much so that the Niners actually had to switch and take the other sideline. But at least it doesn't blind the players. It doesn't make the player's job during the actual plays more difficult. That's bad, but it's not as bad as Jerry Jones deliberately building a stadium to blind players because he likes the photos that come from the games afterwards.
Well, let's put it this way. Both owners screwed up when it comes to that. Both deserve criticism for it. Jed York has done what he can to change it. Jerry Jones has flat out said, I'm not changing it. I want my stadium to look pretty.
He doesn't care, and it's a disaster for the Cowboys. Meanwhile, like we thought that the Commanders were going to run away and hide with the NFC East. The Eagles, man, they're right back atop the division, 7-2. You know, they had all those bad vibes last year, and we certainly enjoyed it as 49er fans. They look great.
They have looked better than I expected. I still see some problems with them. Their secondary is still shaky, and Hurts is still turning the ball over. But the sum is greater than that, and they've been able to win the games.
Now, the tests will be coming up because here are the Eagles' wins so far this year. The Packers in week 1, the Saints, who are awful, the Browns, who are awful, the Giants, who are awful, the Jags, who are awful, and the Cowboys, who are awful. Now, look, you can only play who's on the schedule, but what I would say is I don't know that they have been tested so much this season. They're going to be coming up. They have the Commanders, then they're in LA to play the Rams, who are getting healthier and look better. Then they play in Baltimore against the Ravens. So the next 3 games will give us a lot better idea of how good the Eagles actually are.
Yeah, it is going to be put up or shut up time. And this is the time of year last year when they completely fell apart. So do they go play the Commanders, lose, and then fall apart again? Or can they change the tune and get back to the team that they were 2 years ago?
How do they respond to adversity? They haven't faced a bunch of it yet this year, and we'll see if they crumble like they did last year. All right, next up, let's get to some other games. Chargers get the 27-17 win over the Titans. We know Jim Harbaugh well, Levin. This is what he does. He comes in and he fixes your problems, and he fixes them right quick, and the Chargers are 6-3.
Yeah, it's play mistake-free football. That's what he concentrates on. It's not let's out scheme them. Let's not screw it up. They have the 5th fewest penalties in the NFL. They have they have the lowest amount of turnovers offensively, and they are first in points allowed per game at 13.1.
Yeah, Jesse Minter, the DC there, looks like the stud hire of the offseason, man. He's got them cooking.
Yeah, they have been exactly what the Niners were when they had Jim Harbaugh. Sound defense and an offense that does not turn the ball over. It's not a good offense, but it doesn't put the defense into bad spots.
Justin Herbert was 14 of 18 for 164 yards. I'm used to seeing Justin Herbert have to throw it 75 times because they're always losing and they always need to come from behind. No, it's 14 of 18 for 164. That's an Alex Smith with the 49ers type day.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see if this is a team that can surprise people come playoffs, where they're able to flip the script when they need it. Oh, our defense did give up points. Okay, Herbert's going to go throw for 400 yards and win the game. Can they do that?
Mm-hmm. The Chargers have not given up more than 20 points all year. That is going to win you some games, and especially if you don't turn over the football. So good on the Chargers. They get the win. I like Justin Herbert. I think he has been let down by coaching more often than not in his career. So I was excited to see Jim Harbaugh go there. And like I said, 6-3 right now. Looks like it's working out. Let me just take a quick look at their schedule. They got Cincinnati, then Baltimore, then the Falcons, then the Chiefs.
That's going to get four pretty rough games.
It's going to get spicy for the Chargers down the stretch. We'll see how they do. Next up, the Buffalo Bills. Man, this was supposed to be a rebuilding year for Josh Allen and the Bills, and instead they look arguably like maybe the best team in Sean McDermott's tenure. They get the 30-20 win over Joe Flacco and the Colts. They are 8-2 on the season.
Yeah, it was 30-13 until like a last-second garbage touchdown for the Colts. So it was a much bigger of a blowout than it seemed final score.
Mm-hmm.
But the amazing part to me that I wrote down was, because this is completely different than what it's been before, they were up 30-13 right at the end of the game, and yet Josh Allen had 2 interceptions and no passing touchdowns. Previously, if Josh Allen had a game like that, which I know he had a rushing score, but if he had a game where he threw multiple picks and didn't have 4 touchdowns to go with it, they would have lost. The Bills team does seem different. And if they're different, then that's what we talked about last week. The AFC playoffs, every single game is going to be, I'm watching that over the NFC game. You know what I mean? Because it's ridiculous. You're going to have the Bills going at it with the Steelers, the Ravens, the Chiefs. I mean, that's 4 teams already right there, and you're not even getting to the Texans and the Chargers and what other teams might get in there.
So just, again, I know it's early, but just for the exercise, the Chiefs would get the bye in the first round. The Bills right now would play the Broncos, which, hell, the Broncos just took the Chiefs to the limit, so who knows? The Steelers would play the Chargers, and the Texans would play the Ravens. That's an awesome playoff field in the AFC. That's fantastic. I would sign for that right now.
But it would even get better the next week because now, okay, the Chiefs are going to play, and 3 of the teams that win those games also play. So it's going to be a great first week, and then the second week is going to be the one that is just, it will be some of the best matchups we've ever had in a single conference in the playoffs.
And that doesn't even include, Cincinnati, if they could somehow get back into the fold of things. By the way, you want to know what a weird week this was? Joe Burrow threw 5 touchdowns and lost. Jared Goff threw 5 picks and won.
Yeah. It was a very weird week. But the reason why Burrow lost is because the best quarterback in the league was on the other side of the field. And that's the conversation that I think should be coming out of that game is, all right, Mahomes is not having a good season. Yes, they're winning, but you have the defending MVP or the reigning MVP running away with the MVP now because, like I said, Josh Allen threw 2 interceptions and didn't throw a touchdown pass this week. So he had a bad week when it comes to that. Yep. And the other guy that I put in the top 3 was Henry, and Henry didn't have a good game, which is why this elevated Lamar Jackson even more because he was able to lead a comeback without the run game being great.
Jared Goff threw 5 picks. That's going to give his MVP stock a huge hit. Kyler Murray I feel like Kyler's kind of creeping up there. There's a possibility. He's got to keep it going for sure. But yeah, right now, Lamar looks like he's absolutely running away with it. Okay, next up, Patriots, Bears. Matt Eberflus came out today and said Caleb Williams is still going to be our starting quarterback. If it is week 10 of your number 1 overall draft picks rookie year and your head coach has to announce that he's going to maintain the job as the starter, things have gone off the rails in Chicago.
Yeah, the note I have on this one is Caleb Williams, even the 3rd best quarterback in that draft class. Because I think Jaden Daniels, you got to put, way above everybody else currently. Things can change. It's still rookie years. But then who did he just lose to? Who did the Bears lose to? Oh, they lost to rookie quarterback Drake May on the other side of the field.
Yep.
And you also had Bo Nix have another good week. And statistically this season, Bo Nix has been better than Caleb Williams, and it's not all that close, honestly. So is he even the 3rd best, or is he the 4th best quarterback in that league, in that draft class?
16 of 30 for 120 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Caleb Williams was sacked. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, not 5 times, not 6 times, not 7 times, not 8 times. He was sacked 9 times in the game. I feel like that guy from Ferris Bueller. 9 times. That is a disaster. What the hell is going on in Chicago?
It's just, 1, Caleb Williams is being slow to recognize. 2, he's holding on to the ball way too long. And 3, the play calling's not good. Eberflus will not be the coach there after the season. But for Caleb Williams to be doing what he's doing and have the 3 wide receivers that he has is inexcusable. That makes it even worse what's going on.
I mean, there was talk of, a number 1 draft pick's never been in a better situation. Well,
that's still probably true. It's just Caleb Williams is not that good right now.
Look, they started the year, they were 4-2. They had wins over the Titans, Rams, Panthers, and Jags. They played the Commanders. They lost by 3 to the Commanders on a damn Hail Mary on the last play of the game. And they got wiped out by the Cardinals 29-9. and now you get wiped out by the Patriots 19-3. And now listen to this coming up for the Bears. Packers, Vikings, Lions, 49ers, Vikings, Lions. Holy hell, is it going to get worse before it gets better in Chicago?
It's not out of the question that they lose out.
Yeah,
they should be the underdog in all those games. In some of those games, they will be a huge underdog.
That is rough for the Bears. For the Patriots, you know what? Drake May. They were hesitant to put him in. They put Jacoby Brissett in there. It's like every time Drake May plays, it's like, hey, maybe they should have just played this guy right out of the gate.
Yeah, they've been improving. They got some of their wide receivers back early in the year. I think that's part of why they didn't put in Drake May was the fact that like their top 4 wide receivers were all hurt. So what are you putting them in there just to get destroyed because he has nobody to throw to? Some of them are back, not all of them, but some of them are, and he's looked good enough. He hasn't been lighting the league on fire, but he's looked like somebody that's making do with what he has, which is not a very good supporting cast.
And he's certainly looked better than Jacoby Brissett, and the team has looked better since he took over. There's no question about that.
Yeah, they are an improving team. If you're a Patriots fan, you feel confident about the future right now, which is more than what they could have said at any point last year.
Couple more games to go. New Orleans gets the 20-17 win over the Falcons. That's a bad loss if you're Atlanta. You're trying to, prove that you're putting this thing together and getting it together. And I know you're on the road, but damn, man, you lose to the Saints. The Saints. That's a bad loss for the Falcons.
So this is a game I've been waiting for because they had a 300-yard passer and a 100-yard rusher in this game, yet they only got 17 points. How did they do that? Well, they missed 3 field goals for starters. But let me read you the drives that they stalled out before they could get a touchdown. They had 35 yards and then missed a field goal. They had 53 yards and then missed a field goal. They had 68 yards and then had to take a field goal because they had 2 red zone penalties that destroyed their chances of scoring. They went 62 yards and missed a field goal again. They had 37 yards and threw an interception. And then at the end of the game, they had 42 yards and were driving, but couldn't quite get into field goal range and ran out of time. They had 6 drives with 35 plus yards that did not get points. That's insane.
It's like turnover on downs, essentially. It functions as turnovers in that situation. That is just a hideous, hideous loss. And Kirk Cousins had been playing well. He had really been playing well up to that point, and he threw for 300 yards in the game. No touchdowns, an interception, got sacked 3 times. It just seems to me that Atlanta is less than the sum of their parts. I like all the pieces there, but for some reason, and now it's multiple head coaches, they just don't seem to be coalescing and coming together. They're not as good as they should be, in my opinion.
I feel like they need to pick an identity on offense and stick to it.
Yeah.
Because they come out, they had like 3 or 4 weeks in a row where they just came out and they were passing every single play and they completely ignored that they had Bijan Robinson as a running back. And now, in the last 2 weeks, they've come out and said, all right, we're giving Bijan the ball. We're going to be a running team. It's like you're going back and forth between being pass happy and being run happy. Pick an identity, say this is going to be our calling card, and stick to it.
And we'll see if they can bounce back. I like Kirk Cousins. Ever since I saw the quarterback thing on Netflix, I like him as a guy. So I hope he plays well, but he's going to have to get it together. The Falcons are going to try and make the playoffs in a very crowded NFC. All right, last game. Panthers, Giants. The New York Giants are a dumpster fire. Their head coach, Brian Daboll, today said, well, we're evaluating things at the quarterback position. Guess what? Daniel Jones, you're out. That means you're out. It's going to be Drew Lock. I mean, the fact that they paid Daniel Jones, I have no idea why they paid Daniel Jones. I keep saying this. Teams are afraid of quarterback purgatory. Quarterback purgatory is not as bad as quarterback hell. They paid Daniel Jones. That puts you in quarterback hell. You don't want to be there.
Yeah, I would describe them the opposite way. That's interesting. I would say quarterback purgatory is when you have a decent quarterback that's too good to get you a high draft pick, but not good enough to be a difference maker and win enough games for you. Quarterback hell is when you just drafted somebody and they suck and you're going to have to do it again. Quarterback hell was where the 49ers were before Brock Purdy's emergence. when Trey Lance got injured again, and they were looking at it as, we just spent 3 first-round picks on this guy, and we don't think we have it. That's hell to me. The purgatory is when you have a quarterback that you don't want to lose, but you also know that you can't really win a Super Bowl with. Now, Jones has never fully been that. He was never that good. He's always been somebody that takes the easy way out every time. He dumps it off all the time. He's on pace this year for just 14 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. So he's gotten worse. The injuries have not helped him. So they absolutely should bench him. But really, this game, the biggest, most newsworthy thing out of this game was the crowd in Munich, Germany, and their ability to sing.
Yeah, they were. The international crowds are cool, man. I do dig that. I hate when my team plays internationally, but when it's not my team, I'm all for it. Here's how you know Daniel Jones is going to get benched, because this is the tweet that Adam Schefter put out there. Quote, Giants are 3-13 in Daniel Jones' last 16 starts. If he were to get injured and couldn't pass a physical by March, he'd be owed $23 million fully guaranteed next year. Drew Lock is the Giants' backup. That's Adam Schefter telling you they want to move on from Daniel Jones after the season. If he gets hurt, they're stuck with a $23 million bill that they don't want to pay. If they were to give Daniel Jones a post-June 1st designation after the year, it'd only be an $11 million cap hit. He's done in New York. He is done. And it's all but over with the shouting.
Yeah, the Giants are the team in the NFL that's going full, huge rebuild in the offseason. They are looking for a franchise quarterback in the draft. They're going to do whatever they can to get the number 1 pick, in my opinion. And they're going to be firing their coach. They're probably going to be firing their GM. They are going full rebuild. Everybody's out.
And for all the people, and there are a lot of Kyle Shanahan haters that are sitting there saying, I want Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson. Let's see what Ben Johnson can do with this team. You know who Ben Johnson could be? He could be Brian Daboll. Everybody wanted Brian Daboll because he developed, air quotes, Josh Allen, right? Oh, you got to have Brian Daboll. Look, he's going to be great. And then he gets away from Josh Allen, and he looks like a pumpkin. That's all I'm saying. And this isn't to denigrate Ben Johnson. He may end up being a great head coach. I have no idea. All I'm saying is, just because a guy's a good coordinator doesn't mean he's going to be a good head coach. And the Giants are in a mess of trouble. And quickly, Bryce Young, you know what? He has looked better since he's come back off the bench. Not great, but certainly better than he did.
Now, I wondered if you were going to go there, because has he looked better? Yeah, because he couldn't look worse.
Right, that's true.
I mean, how low is that bar? The guy threw for 150 yards. What are we talking about? Like, yeah, I saw that storyline coming out of the game, and I thought, I wonder if Rob will bring that up or not. Bryce Young looked like a very limited quarterback in this game. He just didn't turn the ball over, so he didn't look as bad as he did. He looks like a backup quarterback at best.
He's got 4 touchdowns and 3 interceptions in his last 3 games. Again, better. I'm just trying to find some light here for the Panthers. It's rough. Okay, they're in the wilderness.
There's not much light there.
No, I tried, Panthers fans. I tried. Thanks for Christian McCaffrey. That's all I could say. Is pretty much it. Do you have a Monday Night Football prediction? I will be watching with bated breath because the Rams are playing. I want the Rams to lose. Dolphins in LA to take on the Rams. Rams starting to get a little healthier. Levin, don't like that as a Niner fan. They're going to be a problem.
It will be interesting to see because it's McVay versus McDaniels. We have not seen them go toe-to-toe yet as the two disciples of Kyle Shanahan. So it'll be interesting to see if McDaniels has any tricks up his sleeve, things that he learned from Kyle Shanahan, because as we know, the 49ers have had the number of the Rams since Shanahan and McVay have been going toe-to-toe as the 2 head coaches over there in the NFC West. So to me, I think I don't like either team. I don't think either team's that good. I'm going the Dolphins just because they've been so down lately, and they got a little bit of health. They got Tua right now. I think that this is a game where they finally figure something out because it's been so bad. If they lose this game, it's going to crater even worse, and McDaniels might even be out of a job, as crazy as that is to say.
Well, they're 2-6. He hasn't won a playoff game since he's been the head coach. I know he's had, quarterback injuries, but you only get that excuse for so long. We've seen the Browns made the playoffs with Joe freaking Flacco last year. So, at some point that excuse runs dry, basically. They're 2-6 right now. I mean, they're probably not making the playoffs anyway, but they're at least, trying to play for pride. They have a dangerous offense. When Tua is there, they can be a dangerous offense. So it's, if the Rams mess around, they'll find out tonight on Monday Night Football. I don't think the Rams will. I'll take the Rams in the game. I'm a Sean McVay fan. I think he's a really good coach. They have the best quarterback in the NFC. Puka's back. Cooper Kupp is back. They're getting people. Kyron Williams scores a touchdown seemingly every friggin' week. I think the Rams are going to be an issue for our 49ers down the stretch.
I wouldn't be surprised. I'll be honest. Of all the disciples of Kyle Shanahan, McVay is the one that I would actually take over Shanahan himself.
Me too.
He has humility, unlike Kyle Shanahan. And that's a big difference. I think Kyle Shanahan knows more about defense, and there's certain things that Kyle Shanahan can do that McVay isn't quite as good at. But McVay is still really, really, really good, and he figures things out. But he has a humility and a willingness to listen to the players and allow them to control some of the things.
It seems to be the big difference. Also, he didn't have to play the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Also, a big difference. Just throwing that out there. A little different playing Joe Burrow than it is playing Patrick Mahomes. And no, I'm not bitter about the 49ers' 2 Super Bowl losses at all. Why would you ask that? That's going to do it for this edition of the show. Thank you, everybody. Again, this is our second ever NFL show. We just kicked this thing off. Hope you like it. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Obviously, we cover the 49ers on a daily basis, so that's most of what you'll get on the channel. But we did start this show. We're going to keep it going. So if you got any questions, suggestions, let us know in the comments. We really do appreciate it. Levin, I'm going to watch the 49er game one more time to put myself in a good mood and enjoy this Victory Monday.
Well, I mean, if you know it ends in a win, at least then you get to enjoy it a little bit more, because this season has been the exact opposite of last season. Every game was a blowout, and the fourth quarter was a party. And this season's been, every single game's been, oh God, give me a drink.
Yes. Either way, you're drinking at the end of these games. Enjoy the rest of your Monday, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.